Deadlock is a new 6 vs 6 third-person shooter from Valve with a MOBA game objective similar to Dota 2. 6 players on each team get deployed onto 4 different lanes using a rail system, where players fight waves of creeps and enemy players with the objective of pushing their lanes to the enemy's base and ultimately destroying their patron. Along the way, opposing defense systems such as walkers, base guardians, shrines will get incrementally harder, and players will have to level up their abilities and buy items to try and overpower their opponent. Whoever destroys the enemy's patron first wins. Deadlock is a super complicated game with a ton of different elements, and in this video I'll try to introduce you to all the different elements and try to break it down so when you jump in the game yourself you have a sense of everything going on around you. We'll start with the basics, and later on we'll dive deeper into all the items and heroes. Alright, so let's start by inspecting the UI and everything going on our screen here. So first of all, it's a third-person shooter, so of course you're going to have your crosshair, and you can see next to the crosshair there are 3 things that are kind of noteworthy here. You're going to have your small little bars, you're going to have 3 large bars, and you're going to have your a number which represent in this case your magazine and how much ammo your character has. As I reload, you're also going to see that there is a red swirling bar, which essentially just represents how long it takes to reload. Now, the small little bars, they also represent how many shots you have left in your magazine. So you can see that as I'm shooting, they trickle down, and when I reload, you get it all the way back up. The large bars represent stamina. Now, stamina, you can utilize this for a different kind of movement. So, for example, I can leap forward, and you can see that it's taking down my stamina by 1 bar. And you can also use a few different kind of movements. So you can jump, you can double jump, that's going to consume 1 stamina. You can jump dash, for example, that's going to consume 1 stamina. You can double jump dash, that's going to be 2 stamina. And you can jump dash, oh, I didn't have enough stamina at that time. I need to let it wait. Each stamina bar takes 5 seconds roughly to regenerate. So if you're fully out, it takes about 15 seconds and you'll regenerate all 3 bars. It's also worth noting that you can slide in this game. So for example, you can jump forward and then you can enter a slide. Now, as I'm sliding, you can see that my magazine or the ammo turns green. And there's going to be like an infinite logo by my ammo. This means that when I'm sliding, I'm not actually consuming any ammo as I'm shooting. No bullets are being consumed. Regularly, you can see sticking down to 7. But as I enter the slide, it's not ticking down and I'm back to 7. So this is going to be really useful, for example, and introduce some skill for you, that if you get low on bullets and you only have 1 left, for example, but you really need 2 more bullets, you can leap forward, you can slide, and you get 2 more. I only got 1 more that time. But if you time the window right, you get 2 more bullets there. So that's worth keeping in mind. Additionally, you can wall climb in this game. So this little wall right here. Okay, well, I need to double jump. Okay, that didn't work either. Thank you, game. But if I wanted to double jump, okay, this really didn't work out. Here, we climb up here. There we go. He climbed up. He climbed up the little wall. There you go. All right. And obviously you can climb a little bit taller than this, like up there, for example. But that's going to be good, and keep in mind, you can actually navigate the high ground somewhat doing that. This is a little bit taller. There we go. So there's some movement for you. Another advanced movement that you'd like to learn is dash jumping. Now, this is a tight timing that is indicated by your stamina bar turning blue after you dash. But if you practice it well, you'll gain a little bit of better, more momentum when you actually dash jump instead of your regular dash. This is especially important as there's an item called Kinetic Dash, which says your next dash jump does not cost an extra stamina and you gain fire rate and bonus ammo until your next reload. So especially useful because you get an extra buff while you perform this advanced movement. Besides moving forward, you can also move backwards and to the sides. All right, let's talk more about the UI and what's going on here. So, of course, you can see the health bar, which right now says 632 out of 632. There's an orange bar, which says 85. In this case, that is my bullet shield. So that's a shield strictly for bullet damage, which we'll talk more about later when we get to items and such. And also, if I wanted to get... some other items, you can see that I also have a purple bar, which has 300, which means spirit shield. So that is a shield strictly for spirit damage incoming. You can also see that there's a small little number that says 2. That's health regen. That is how much health I'm regenerating per second. And you could obviously boost this with different items, for example, and you'll regenerate health quicker. You can also see there's a bit of a vial thing going on, which has 631 souls to next. That is essentially your experience bar, and as you get more souls from killing creeps, killing heroes, killing towers, walkers, or jungling, you will level up, and you will get more experience, and that will take over. On the left-hand side, we also have some basic kind of like attributes. You can see 6.5 meters per second next to a running guy. That is how fast you're moving. Different heroes have different movement speeds, and you can buff this with different items or abilities, for example. It says plus 36. That is going to be related to your bullet, of course. It's a bit of a crosshair. So in this case, plus 36 damage. There's a bit of a star that says 17. That's going to be your spirit power, and that is going to enhance your abilities and make them stronger as well. And in some case, we'll talk about later, it's going to enhance some of your attributes of your character, like your movement speed, for example. Below that, we have souls. In the sandbox, I have an infinite amount of souls. That is a currency, that is gold. But when you're in the real game, that is going to be the amount of souls you've kind of secured here. And below that, you have 12 item slots. And if I bring up the shop, which we'll talk about later, you can see that there are 12 item slots here. You have 4 for weapon, 4 for vitality, and 4 for spirit. And you also have 4 flex slots. These open up the more you progress throughout the game. So after your team destroys an enemy walker, it opens up 1 flex slot, and you can buy 1 particular item of whatever you want. So if you're already full on vitality like I am, you can open up this slot and buy an additional vitality. And incrementally throughout the game, you're going to unlock more of these slots as you kind of like clear objectives, and ultimately you're going to have all 4 if you progress deep in the game. Next up, at the bottom of your screen, of course, you have your abilities. You can see hold tab to upgrade your ability, and that's going to bring up an interface here where you can upgrade your abilities. You can see that as I level up these abilities, they gain different kind of powers as well, which all depends on what ability it is. You're going to see there's a cooldown number. You're going to see there's a duration number. There's a range number as well. This says 10 meters. The number at the bottom of your screen is going to be your ability points, if you will. Of course, in Sandbox, I have infinite amount of ability points, and I can spend these 2 different abilities to upgrade them. So if I want to upgrade an ability first, it costs 1 ability point. Later on, it costs 2 ability points to upgrade to the next level. That is a way for me to enhance my abilities, but also build. You know, I can do like an ability build if I wish. Just like I'd really like to max out Infernal Resilience, like we have here, for example. I can utilize that to enhance my ability. If we take a look at the top of your screen, there's going to be the team souls, which in my case it says 1k. That's the amount of souls that my current team has right now, which is going to be me in Sandbox. And it also says 0 for the blue team. That is going to be the blue team. So it's a collective effort. It's a combined amount of souls that each team has. And below that, you can see that there's a little bit of a symbol representing like the progress on the minimap, of course, like how far each team has gone on the objective. There's a timer, and below each hero portrait, you can see individually how many souls, how strong these characters are, how many souls they've attributed. And you can also see the health bars. So if, for example, you see an engage going on your minimap, and you kind of think like, oh, do I want to jump in here? Do I want to try to finish someone off? You can actually look at the health bars at the top of your screen, and you can see if any of the enemy heroes are low health, for example. You can jump in, engage, and maybe finish that opponent off. Another basic function we have in this game is pinging, which Most games have these days, most FPS games. So you can see I can put a little green marker, and you can assign this ping button in your option settings to wherever you want to ping. You can ping opponents, and it'll be a tall red beam up into the sky. It bugs out a little bit here. So if you're coming in from a side angle and you want to attack an opponent, you can ping that opponent. And later on in the game as well, I mean, you can ping like structures and such. So make sure you utilize the ping if you want to engage with a teammate, because then you can ping someone out. Another function, or the basics function we have, is the chat wheel. Also effective if you're not communicating via mic. You can bring up the chat wheel. Again, depends on what your hotbind is. And you have a few different options here. So of course we have going in, help, thanks, what's the plan, retreat, stay together. And you also have headed to lane, which expands, and you get headed to purple, headed to blue, headed to orange, headed to yellow. So depending on what lane you're heading to, and maybe you want to let your teammates know that you're on your way, you can go, I'm headed to purple. And he'll say the street name actually, but yeah, so there you go. Now the bottom one, it says sorry, but this is actually changeable, so you can change it to what you want. If we bring up the settings real quick, you can go to chat wheel, and you can see here that if you press use contextual wheel slot, the bottom chat wheel slot will adjust based on the context you're in, and be probably something relevant if the game is working correctly. But you can unselect this and choose the bottom one based out of all these ones on the right hand side. So you can use good job if you want to be complimentary, need heal, can heal, or help with the urn, for example, which we'll get to later, whatever that is. So use the chat wheel and use the pings to more effectively communicate with your team. When in game, you can also press tab to unlock your cursor, so you can move your cursor around. This allows you, for example, to ping on the minimap if you want to ping enemy heroes, if you want to ping allies or towers you want to engage on, or even if you want to go for the mid-boss, for example. You can also select your abilities this way when you unlock them. And if you hover over your teammates, you can see what items they're building, and you can hover over opponents as well, if they're in a line of sight, of course. So unlocking the cursor gives you a few different ways to navigate this UI. Besides pinging, you can also draw on the map, and you do this by activating the cursor as regular and just drawing on the map. This can be useful if you want to highlight something, a larger area on the map, and after a little while the drawing will fade and it'll go back to normal. All right, let's talk about damage. So there are kind of like 3 sets of damage here. You got your regular bullets, which are highlighted by the orange number. You have headshots, which are highlighted by the big yellow number. And you also have spirit damage in this game, which is going to be your ability damage or what have you. And as I activate this ability, you'll see a purple number ticking up. And there are different sets of kind of damage that way. We'll get deeper into it, but there's spirit shield and there's bullet shield, and ways to mitigate these kinds of damages. So the game gets really complicated, but we'll get there. Besides shooting, you also have melee. So we got a bit of a light melee here. You can see that I'm dealing about 60 damage, but you can also channel your melee for a heavy melee, which is going to be quite useful in this game, as we'll get to the creeps. But there's some different kinds of damage for you. This character that I am right now actually has a bit of a melee build going for it, and so melee definitely isn't useless by any means. It's actually quite useful and something that you should integrate into the game. When it comes to melee as well, one thing I forgot to mention is that you can also parry in this game. So whatever your keybind is, you can parry, and your character becomes like a little blue, which shows that you're currently trying to parry enemy melee attacks. And this is really useful because meleeing is really powerful, as we'll get to later in the video. So if you're facing someone that does melee quite a bit, then make sure you utilize the parry. If you parry someone's attack, they'll get stunned for a little while, and you can effectively get some value out of that. Now, to bait that, this parry is on a bit of a cooldown, and so you can't use it all the time. You can't just like spam parry. It's on a 6-second cooldown, as you can see in the bottom of my screen as well. This means that if you want to melee someone, but they have parry, this becomes a little bit advanced. There's no basics anymore. you want to get this parry out, right? You want your opponent to use the parry. And this is where you can actually change the momentum of your heavy punch. So you can see I'm channeling my heavy punch, going straight. I can also turn when I'm heavy punching. Like so. So this means that theoretically, if I start channeling my heavy punch, my enemy will have time to react and start parrying. But I can bait out the parry, my opponent's enemy parry, by charging up the heavy melee and then turning before I reach the parry. That way I guarantee that my opponent, they've wasted their parry, and that's when I can actually get to work and start using my heavy melee. So if you're facing someone that does melee quite a bit, make sure you utilize the parry. But also, if you're trying to melee yourself, make sure that you try to bait out this parry instead. And this also, you know, if you want a heavy melee, you can turn in the middle of it if your opponent is moving as well. So something to keep in mind when it comes to parrying. All right, let's talk about laning for a little second here. So every 30 seconds, you're going to have a creep wave spawn at your base, both teams' bases. And they're going to spawn in sets of 4. You're going to have 3 smaller little minions, and you're also going to have a larger banner minion, which I call the shaman, because he has a little thingy and a little banner. This banner dude, person, minion, also has a heal, as you just saw there. Every 6 seconds, this banner minion is going to heal for 40, which means that over a minute, of course, you're going to get healed for 400. And this can heal other minions that are nearby. It can heal me if I'm low from fighting in my lane, for example. And it can also heal the tower. So this tower hasn't taken any damage, but theoretically, what you're doing, could heal towers as well. So if you really pushed up your lane, that's going to mean that your shaman, as it passes your tower, is going to incrementally heal your tower. And after a while, your tower is going to be healed up from this little banner creep. So that's a small little set of healing. All right. Let's actually get to shooting enemy creeps. So, regularly shooting creeps, I'm not going to gain anything. I'm just going to trickle down their health. But it's all going to be about last hitting in this game, just like in any other MOBA. So this minion is a little bit low. And as I kill this minion, you can see that this little orb spawns and then gives me 41 souls. It gave me 41 souls there. This one shot spawned a little bit of a soul. And this is what last hitting is about in this game. This is how you last hit in this game. So I'm going to head over here, and we got a bit of a well that's spawning orbs continuously. So these green orbs, you can see when I'm shooting them, I get souls, and that's going to be, you know, the ones that I've triggered. It's going to be last hits that I've triggered, and I secure the souls by shooting these green little orbs. The orange orbs, they represent the other team's last hits, and the orbs that they've spawned, and this is where I get the opportunity, or the other team gets their opportunity, to deny these souls. So you have to be pretty tactical about when you trigger these last hits and when you finish off minions, because if you just do it recklessly, the opponent will just deny them. They'll take your soul orbs, and they'll just rack up the souls, and you won't be rewarded for it. So you can see that I'm shooting both green and orange here. So you have to be pretty tactical about when you try to last hit, because if you do it recklessly, then you're just going to feed more souls to the opponent. All right, so let's get back into the lane here. And obviously, I don't have an opponent here, so if the minions just kill themselves, there's not going to be any orbs, soul orbs spawning. So you have to last hit them to trigger the soul orbs. You can see they're going head to head there. They're really going at it. And one of mine died. Nothing spawned. So you have to last hit them. And I'm not worried about denying anything unless the opponent triggers one of these soul orbs. Now, this is where meleeing is going to be quite efficient, actually. Because when you melee, you secure both the initial souls, but also the soul orb. So I'm going to go and let them push up a little bit here. And you're going to see that when I heavy melee this creep's pretty low, I get 85. I get 85 immediately from heavy meleeing, and there's no orb spawning. So that's really good for finishing off creeps. You can heavy melee them and secure that without risking the creep or the soul orb being denied in the first place. So, for example, if you're taking cover, you're playing pretty tactically here against your opponent, running corners. If you let the minions kind of come up here, that's going to give you a greater chance of meleeing without being too exposed, and you don't risk them getting denied either. For an easy indicator of when you can melee, keep an eye on the health bar of the minion. When it's light red, it means that it's pretty low and you can get away with a heavy punch, whereas when it's really low and blinking, that's when you can get away with a light punch. One thing to keep in mind is that after the 10-minute mark, you no longer get souls from shooting, last hitting a minion. You can see here that I got souls from shooting the minion and killing it. But after the 10-minute mark, I no longer do so. The only way to get souls from minions after the 10-minute mark is by actually last hitting the soul orbs. Alright, let's talk about the towers a little bit here. So, they're not really towers in this game, but in MOBAs, they're commonly called towers. This is a walker, and you can see that it's activated. And no, it's not active anymore. But as we get close, it activates and starts shooting at me. Very menacing. I have to be close for this tower, or this walker, to activate. Or my minions, if they walk up there, the tower activates and starts firing, and that means that we can shoot this walker. We can deal damage to it. If there's no one nearby, you can't actually damage it. So it's not activated, it says shielded. You have to activate the walker to damage it in the first place. So if you're a sniper, you can't just like stay far away and just keep damaging it. You actually have to activate it in the first place. And this can be both me or my minions can activate it. So if I get close, you know, I could walk in here, activate it, and finish it off if it's low HP, for example. I don't have to wait for my minions to do so. So there you go. That's pretty basic laning and basic functions for you when it comes here. Let's talk about the rails for a little bit here. So I mentioned rails in the intro of this video, and these are kind of like the unique feature of this MOBA compared to others, is that when you go down into your lane, you're taking these rails, which gives you movement speed and you travel faster down the rail. There's going to be 4 sets of rails for each lane, of course. You can jump between the rails, for example. You can't shoot. I can't shoot here while I'm on the rail. I can use abilities while I'm on the rail here, but I can't fire. I can jump off this rail and dash off it, for example, get a bit of a utilize that movement speed boost. And minions are going to travel on this rail. Heroes are going to travel on this rail, and it's just an easier way to get around here. You can also see that I have a bit of a zipline speed boost. This is an ability that I can activate every 300 seconds, every 5 minutes, and you can see on the left-hand side that it gives me a bit of a boost. This is a buff. It lasts for 40 seconds. And so I can, you know, jump off, I can do some shopping, I can buy some things, and then I can jump back up and still utilize the speed boost. This comes in handy for a few different things. At the start of the game, I don't necessarily use it, but if I wanted to travel back to base to heal up, for example, if I'm really low and then travel back, I can do so. Or if I wanted to go from my lane to a friend's lane to help them out with something, this would be a way for me to easily kind of like move around the map by utilizing that rail boost as well. So let's jump into a private bot match, and we can take a look at what it looks like when you load into the game and you start playing the game yourself. So as you load into the game, you're going to spawn into a bit of a lobby. You can see your teammates, you can see the opponents as well, and the heroes they've picked in the game. Then you're going to spawn on top of a rail, taking you to the lane where you're about to fight. At least in this version of the game, everyone just spawns and kind of like automatically attaches to a rail. Whereas I can see in matchmaking, for example, maybe you can organize it a little bit and pick what lanes you're going to. Obviously, because there's 6 players on 4 lanes, there's going to be 2 lanes with 2 teammates and 2 lanes who are kind of solo. So as you can see, my creeps have kind of spawned here, and on the opponent's side, you of course have creeps spawn on the other side. And the game flow kind of is, you try to finish off these, soul orbs as well, trying to finish off the creeps. You're going to have your opponent, in this case a bot that just jumped into the shadows. And the game becomes... Can you find some kind of domination in your lane? And in this case, I'm just going to finish this guy off. And we're gonna go ahead and push this lane. All the way in. There we go. Get these souls. Rack them up. Rack them up. And we start fighting the enemy tower. Me and the boys. You're going to see the creeps. They're going to spawn on that rail, and when they reach the combat, they just drop down. We're also going to have the hero kind of come on the rail soon. And it is noteworthy that you can actually shoot people off the rails. There is a damage threshold. So it didn't happen there. But if you hit a large chunk of damage on someone traveling on a rail, they get stunned. And as well, if you shoot creeps, then those creeps kind of like fall down to the ground. So, for example, if you are behind the enemy creep lane, you can actually shoot down the enemy creeps before they travel all the way to where combat is taking place. So it's a bit of a way for you to interrupt kind of like where the lane is in the late game. Also next to your tower is going to be the shop. This is where you have a little local thing. You can buy items, for example, with the new acquired souls you have. And you can get to work. So we made some progress here in the lane. We're gonna go ahead and finish up this creep wave. And you can see that we're gonna take this tower down, which is ultimately gonna gain us some progress here. Here we go. Down with you. And we've taken the enemy tower down. Now, as we finish this up, they've closed up shop. So, okay, now you decide to interrupt me. So as you progress down this lane, these shops are going to close when the first tower goes down. So it is worth keeping in mind that now the opponent, hero of course, he'll have to travel all the way back to base if he wanted to buy new sets of abilities. The defensive units in this game. First off, we got our Guardians. These are the first kind of defense mechanism you'll interact with on the creep waves. They're pretty basic, and they'll do like a beam at you to deal damage. Next on, we got the Walkers. They're a bit bigger, as you can see. They're a bit more complicated, and obviously you need to be more powerful to deal with these guys. They have a slightly different ability set. They'll fire some like fireballs and meteors at you, but ultimately they kind of act the same, a little bit tougher. After the Walkers, we got our base Guardians. It's just two Guardians in sets, and as you can see, they're guarding. Two sets are guarding. One set is guarding each kind of like entrance here. After that, we have our Shrines, and the Shrines don't necessarily do anything themselves. They don't attack you or anything like that, but they do channel like a shield towards the patron, which is going to be each team's core. As you can see, the patron is kind of menacing looking. It's got arms. It's got like a orb is channeling, and this thing will do damage to you. It will protect the base. It will protect itself when you're attacking the Shrines. So you have to kill the Shrines before you attack the patron. Now, the patron has two states. This is its regular form, and then after you kill it in this form, it becomes weakened. So after the base Guardians, you have to kill the Shrines to protect the barrier, and then you have to kill this patron. And after this patron is kind of defeated, it'll enter a weakened state. It'll fly down here into this final zone, and that is when you can finally finish the game by killing the weakened patron. Let's talk about map objectives, because holy, there are a lot of things going on in this game, and there are a lot of different things to interact with on the map. So we're gonna take it one by one, and I'll introduce you to everything going on around the map. The first thing, of course, is in a MOBA. There's going to be a jungle. So I'm gonna make my character a little bit stronger here, using these controls here. We'll talk about all this stuff later, don't worry. But let's talk about jungling. So, as you can see, there are three different creeps here. It's like a green little baby creep. There's a yellow, kind of medium creep. And there's a red mega creep. I don't know what the official names are, but I just call them small, big, and huge. And they're going to represent the different kind of difficulties here when it comes to jungle camps. There are lots of different sets of camps. There are going to be sets where there are 3 medium creeps, 3 huge creeps, and just 2 small ones, for example. There's going to be middle and small creeps. There's just lots of different sets. And there's also going to be a bit of a basement where there's like just tons of creeps if you want to do lots of AoE damage and just rack them up. But they're separated into 3 different camps, which are small camps, medium camps, and huge camps, which all spawn at different intervals on the map. And so you're going to encounter them throughout the game in a bit of a wave. So, of course, they behave kind of like regular creeps here. I'm actually going to go ahead and use my ultimate here. And just finish these off. You can see that these medium creeps, they give about 90 souls, and that's going to change throughout the game. So it's going to increase, it's going to it's not going to decrease, but it starts off pretty small and then it's going to increase for a little bit. These big ones, they gain about 300 souls per kill, so obviously they take a longer time. There's going to be harder camps. But as I finish this one off, probably by melee, really it's chunky. You can see that I'll get like 300 souls. Okay, 227. But that's going to increase throughout the game. And you can see there's a small one that's going to spawn here probably in a little bit moment. And that's going to get about 40 souls. So different difficulty, different amount of souls. If we take a look at the map screenshots I have here, you can see that they spawn at different stages. So at the start of the game, there are no camps. All you're seeing are shops right now. Then later on, at around the 2-minute mark, that's when the small camps spawn. And they're marked by the small little triangle here on the map. At around 7 minutes into the game, we're going to have the large camp spawn and the huge camp spawn, which are represented by a triangle with a small little dash and a triangle with 2 dashes, which represents the huge camps, and they're going to be the most difficult camps. The small camps respawn after 4 minutes of killing them. The large camps respawn after 6 minutes, and the huge camps respawn after 8 minutes of killing them. Now, when you kill jungle creeps, you will be awarded something called Unsecured Souls, as you can see in the bottom left. These will take up as I kill these creeps. These are souls that you still have. They're calculated towards the total. So in this example here, I have 1,062 souls, of which 200 are unsecured. And so my total soul count still calculates the amount of unsecured souls. The reason they're ticking down is because they're slowly becoming secured. Now, what is the difference? Unsecured souls means that if I die, I will drop these souls on the ground for my opponent to pick up. And so if I die right now, they'll drop a soul bag of 150 souls that whoever kills me can go and pick up. For example, it'll be a bag on the ground. I can still go and spend these souls. I can spend them freely and buy whatever I want. So I can buy, 200 items here. They will be spent last. So if you have 500 secured souls, or actually if you have 600 secured souls and 100 of them are unsecured, you'll spend the 500 secured ones first. And so you can't just spend your unsecured souls to kind of gain, to kind of like mitigate that. So it is something to keep in mind. The unsecured souls, they count towards your total. You can spend them as you wish, and they will slowly decay and become secured souls over time. But if you recently been jungling, for example, or if you've been picking up bags from crates, then this means that they're unsecured, and if you die, you will drop them on the ground. All right, the next thing in the game are Destructibles. Now you can see that they're these kind of like, I don't know what these are, golden monkeys or something, and you can destroy these and they're going to drop rewards. So you can see that this one, for example, gives a small little 0.75% cooldown reduction. That's pretty neat. You can go ahead and pick that up and you get that permanently on your character. Now there are lots of different kind of rewards for breaking these collectibles. The ones I've seen, I'm gonna go ahead and pull them up on your screen. It's 1.5% fire rate, 4% fire rate, 4% ammo, +2 spirit, and 3% weapon damage, 15 max HP, which I think might scale up, and 0.75% cooldown reduction, which I just picked up. Now, you can melee these, of course, and you can go ahead and pick them up. You can also shoot at them. Okay, they decided not to give me any. They're very cool. Okay, great. And as you can see, they cannot spawn. So you could shoot them, but then you have to run up, of course, if you want to grab them. Besides these golden monkey things, you also have your regular boxes. So the boxes are also going to be destructible. And you can see souls. I forgot to mention souls. They drop souls. So this one spawned 57 souls. That's going to increase throughout the game. And sometimes you get less, sometimes you get more. But it's a pretty decent amount of souls. I mean, that is like, you know, 1.5 creep maybe at the start of the game. So it's a pretty decent amount of souls. So that's always going to be nice. It is worth mentioning that these souls, they are unsecured. And so if you pick these up, they're going to add to your unsecured souls. And they'll need to trickle down and decay into your soul bank. Another type of destructible are these ATMs called Sinner's Sacrifice. I can melee these to earn additional souls, but just like pain is gain, it says right there. When I melee these, I do take damage. When I've brought down the health bar of this Sinner's Sacrifice, it spawns a bunch of soul orbs. So that is another destructible to keep your eyes out for. Let's talk about runes for a little bit. So, in the game, there are 4 types of different runes. You're going to have gun, survival, movement, and casting. These are buffs that are going to last for 2 minutes and 40 seconds when you pick up, and they spawn on top of these little, you know, well things, whatever they are. And as you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, that's why I moved my webcam, is that they give you a little bit of a buff on the left-hand side of your screen. As I said, it's going to last 2 minutes and 40 seconds. And they're going to give you different buffs, of course, depending on which one it is. So you can see on the bottom left-hand side of my screen, you can see that there's like a bit of a rune icon next to my movement speed. So I picked up the movement rune. I run faster. I also have more stamina. I got 2 more stamina because I picked up the movement rune. So that's going to help you move around the map. If I pick up the gun, that's going to give me more fire rate. And I'm also going to get a little bit of a larger magazine. If I pick up survival, I'm going to gain health, but I'm also going to gain a ton of health regen. So I'm going to regenerate my health faster. And this is really strong when runes do spawn in the early game. You can have all these. Casting is going to increase my spirit power, which makes my abilities better. But also in some cases with some heroes, it's going to make my attributes better because spirit power does scale on certain heroes with different attributes. These runes, they spawn 10 minutes into the game alongside other things like spirit urns. We'll talk about it later. But then they spawn at 5-minute intervals if they've been picked up, of course. So you will have runes spawn at 10 minutes. That's the earliest. Really strong. I suggest you go pick them up. And then you can go pick up runes at 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes into the game, etc. This means that you could double rune if it hasn't been picked up. So if there's still a rune available at 1450, you could pick it up, and then 10 seconds later there'll be a second rune spawning, effectively double runing. Now, runes are generally not going to be up for all 5 minutes because they're really strong and you really should try to grab them as soon as they spawn. But they are static in the way that the time they spawn onto the map. So I do recommend you go check out these runes because they're really strong and they'll make your character a lot stronger in that regard. Okay, next up, let's talk about something else that's also on the map. These are cosmic veils, and these are going to be essentially smoke screens. You can see through them, but the other side cannot. And that's kind of represented by the amount of color. So you can see, we look through this veil, and there's lots of colors going on. I mean, someone's having fun here, which means that I can see my opponents, for example. But, oh my god, can I spawn? Can I spawn? But if I go on the other side, I won't be able to see the enemy. So it's a one-way kind of like door. So you can only see through it from one side. So that's going to be really useful, for example, if you know how these work. You can wait on this side of the wall, for example, and then you can jump out and gank this person without them being aware of you coming. And also, it's going to be pretty scary to walk by this door because you don't know what's on the other side of it. So that's going to be pretty scary. That's something to keep in mind. Also, while we're here, I am going to bring up that there is an item called Veil Walker. So, if you think you'll use these a lot, you can buy this, which is a passive called Walking Through a Cosmic Veil grants you stealth and increased movement speed, restores all bullet and spear shields, and grants you bonus fire rate for your next magazine. So, really freaking good, okay? And if you walk through this veil, you get invisibility and become really strong, and you can gank quite effectively. So keep an eye out for these walls if you're a hero that's really strong with ganking, for example. It didn't trigger there because it has an internal cooldown, but you get the gist. It's really strong to once in a while go ahead and gank. In this game, there's also teleporters around the map. We got 6 teleporters in total, which means that there's 3 slots to them. When I get close to the teleporter, you'll see on the minimap that it starts blinking which one I'm traveling to, and this one's on the other side of my side of the minimap that I'm on. So I walk into the teleporter, it's channeling, and I'm traveling to the other side of my my team. There's going to be 3 more sets if I travel back into this one to Park Avenue. And we can go ahead and test the other teleporter as well. Here's the second teleporter. We go down this long basement. It says teleporter here to York Street. Again, you can see that it's highlighting now that I'm traveling to the enemy side of the base. Go through. And now I'm on the other side, coming up in the back of this enemy, which I could theoretically gank now if I wanted to. Next up, we got soul urns. As you can see here, I'm picking up a soul urn worth 3,500 souls. These spawn 10 minutes into the game, and every 5 minutes thereafter if they've been collected and delivered to their spot. You can see on the right hand side of the minimap, there's a green box. That's where I need to bring the soul urn to get my credit and get my 3,500 souls. When I'm carrying the soul urn, I am disarmed, so I can't shoot. I can't use any abilities, but I can use stamina to move around the map more effectively. I can also melee while I'm carrying the soul urn, but I can't shoot or anything like that. So I'm playing pretty safe here. I'm just trying to avoid the enemy entirely while I turn this one in. And once I get closer as well, you're going to see that as I channel to turn it in, there's going to be little souls that spawn as well. I quickly just melee those to collect those extra little souls for turning it in as well. Another neat little tip is that if you activate an ability before you pick up the urn, you still have the duration of that ability. So in this case, I activate a movement speed ability before I pick up the urn, and I still have that movement speed buff while I'm delivering the urn. So activate any movement speed abilities you have before you pick up the urn. A random map fact is that if you go too high in the air, you also take damage from these little static pillars here. They deal lightning damage to you. So if there is one of these little poles here, which has an English word for it that I can't remember right now, that means that you'll take damage. Like if I were to be able to jump up to that building, which I miserably fail at, you take damage up there. That's how you know. Of course, there's no MOBA without a giant mid-boss, which you can fight with your team. The thing about the mid-boss is, as you can see, it has a really quick regenerating shield. So as you can see, I'm trying to take this on myself, but we're not really dealing any health to it because the shield is regenerating too quickly. But as soon as my team comes around, we start dealing actual damage to the health of the mid-boss because we can deal with the shield itself. It's quite chunky. This is 35 minutes into the game. We need quite a bit of team effort. Now, it is a bit tricky because there's a lot of holes in the levels above us, which gives the opponent a chance to swing in here and try to steal this from us. So the reward comes down, the Rejuvenator, and we got enemies coming in here. I do think we actually end up grabbing this one, but there's a lot of opportunity here for the enemy team stealing the Rejuvenator when you finish it off because of the duration. Now, the way to claim the Rejuvenator is by heavy melee punching it. And so you can see here, after we kill the actual boss, the Rejuvenator is going to spawn and it's going to drop down. And the way to essentially claim it is to heavy melee it. And so this really opens the door for the opponent to try to come down and steal it like they're trying to do here, and heavy melee it before us. Also, it's crucial to remember that you can parry, right? So parrying is really powerful here. Drop down, try to parry it, and maybe steal it for yourself. So watch out for that. As for the reward for Rejuvenator, First of all, it halves your spawn timer. So you can see at the top by the portraits, we have a little yellow angel under our portraits because we successfully claimed it. And as we die in this fight, you can see that my team, the yellow team, our spawn timers are going to be halved compared to the blue team's spawn timers as we start falling here. Now it's 32 seconds to respawn. And for the enemy team, that's 64 seconds to respawn. So, essentially halved. Along with the reduced spawn timer, claiming the Rejuvenator also make your minions stronger for 3 minutes. So you can see in this case, our yellow minions, they are much larger because we've claimed the Rejuvenator. So that's going to help keep the lane push up going for the next 3 minutes. Now, it only applies to the minions that spawn after the 3-minute duration from the Rejuvenator. So your current minions, they do not get buffed, but the minions that spawn after you claim the Rejuvenator, they are the stronger ones. Now, after the 3-minute concludes, the stronger minions, they're still on the map, they're still fighting, but the next minions that spawn after the buff is expired, they won't be as strong. And so this is something to keep in mind for the next 3 minutes after you kill the mid-boss and you claim the Rejuvenator. That's the time to push because all your lanes are going to be that much stronger and it's going to give you an edge when it comes to destroying enemy objectives. All right, we can finally talk about items. But to do so, I just want to talk a bit about the attributes and stats first. So I brought up the hero screen here, and we got Abrams for the moment. And you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, you got all these stats, all these attributes. So I just want to break them down quickly. You got your weapon DPS, you got your bullet damage, ammo, light and heavy melee, max health, move speed, stamina. And you can buff all these stats. You can modify them by buying items, of course, and really customize all the stats your character has. So lots of different stats. Now, what I also wanted to point out is that some characters, specifically spirit heroes, they have a spirit logo on some of these. So Great Talon, for example, it has a spirit logo with a bit of an arrow onto the move speed. And this is going to be important, especially if you play spirit heroes, because this means that whenever you buy spirit power, that is going to scale this stat with your spirit power. So, for example, we can go ahead and click, we can go with 7, which is a fan favorite here in Deadlock. And it has, you know, a star spirit level on the move speed, which means that if we go into the sandbox with this hero and we buy spirit items, we can see here that it says base 7 plus 0, but if we start buying spirit items, suddenly we got 8.7 move speed. So you can see the calculation, 7 plus 1.7 based on 59 extra spirit power, which means that we buff our move speed with the more spirit we have. So that is something to keep in mind if you're playing spirit heroes. That is obviously going to scale really well into the late game. So something to keep in mind that this logo is something to look out for. All right, I'm going to go ahead and swap over back to Abrams, and we're going to take a look at the shop. So, there is a lot going on here. There are a lot of different items here in the store. You can see there are 3 categories. There's weapon, vitality, and spirit. Remember, we looked bottom left in our screen. We got 4 item slots per category. We got 4 weapon slots, 4 vitality slots, and 4 spirit slots. And also the 4 flex spots, which we open up later in the game when we progressed down the line. Now, taking a look here at all these different categories, we got 4 different tiers. We got the 500 tier, we got the 1250 tier, the 3000 tier, and the 6300 tier. This applies for all categories. You can see vitality, spirit, it's all the same. But what is noteworthy is that if you buy an item in a tier, you get an additional bonus. And so you can see here next to 500 it says plus 6 weapon damage. And if we buy a 1250 item, instead it's going to say plus 10 weapon damage. Plus 14 weapon damage. So in vitality it's plus 11 base health, plus 14 base health. In spirit it's plus 4 spirit power and plus 8 spirit power. So not only when you buy an item you get the item stats, but you also get the tier stats. So for example, basic magazine, the most basic items, gives me 24% ammo, but also 15% weapon damage. But because I get the 15% weapon damage and I get the 6% weapon damage, when I buy this item, you can see here weapon 0%, it's going to say 21. So obviously it adds up to 21 basic magazine plus the 6. And so that's going to add up in the long run. So that's worth keeping in mind as well when you buy an item. What's next? Well, you can make builds. So if you click on builds, you can click browse builds. And if you go into the public, lots of different builds available. Obviously, top one says tank DPS. Very informative, great job. But there's also like Punchy McPuncherson, which I favorited here, which is a punch build for Abrams. And so you can kind of browse these builds if you don't want to make one yourself, and you can just pick your one that fits your playstyle, the abilities you want to use, and so forth. Now, I made a build here just to showcase the different items, because there's a lot of items here between these 3 categories. So what are kind of the categories? Well, first off, we're going to have our raw stat items. So these are just basic stats. So basic magazine, for example, plus 24 ammo, plus 15 weapon damage. You're going to have like enduring spirit, which gives you plus 75 bonus health, 8% spirit lifesteal. Just raw stats here. We got plus 20% spirit resist, plus 5 spirit power. Just very basic stuff. Now, one part with items is that you can build them together to create a more powerful item. So, of course, bullet armor is component of improved bullet armor. So, if I buy the bullet armor here in the vitality category, we buy bullet armor. Okay, I can't build it because I'm actually browsing builds. Buy bullet armor. Then we can buy improved bullet armor because it has components and we have bullet armor. So, we can buy that and make improved bullet armor. All right. Going back to the builds. So, besides the raw stat items, you have your typical boots. In every MOBA, you have boots that make you move faster, improve your movement speed. You got your sprint boots here, for example, is component of enduring speed, which also gives you more move speed. So move speed obviously going to be very beneficial in most of these games, right? And then you also have fleet foot, which is a different one, increases your slide distance, has a passive, removes the movement speed penalty while shooting, but also with an active ability, gain bonus movement speed and ammo, which takes us to active items. Now, there are other items besides these 3 that give you move speed. In spirit, for example, in the spirit category, there are some items which gives you movement speed, so that's something to keep in mind. But let's talk about active items. Well, if I buy Fleetfoot, it's going to give me an option to, like, where do I put this ability? Because remember, it has an ability, right? So, for example, I can put this ability on 4, and now not only do I have my base hero abilities, I also have Fleetfoot because that's the item I bought. So I can press 4, I activate it, I get the buff, what have you. Now, there are a ton of active abilities, as you can see. There's like 38 of them or something like that. And they're all in different categories. You can see the orange ones are the weapon, you got the vitality and the spirit ones, of course. And they all do different things. So I suggest you just go and check these out yourself. It's going to take a lot of time to learn all these. I'm not going to go over them one by one. But there are a few that stand out, like the silencer, for example. It's an active ability. For the next 6 seconds, all your bullets immediately apply silence. So if you shoot someone, you can see 2-second debuff duration. There's silence. It's a status effect. They can't use their abilities. And it says 34-second cooldown. You can move on and you can look at Cold Front, for example, which is another one that I really like when I engage. It's an active ability. Release and expanding Ice Blast deals spirit damage and slow targeted hits. So really good if you jump into action and decide to gank someone. They have a harder time getting away. But also there's really powerful ones, like Disarm, for example. If you have a really powerful bullet hero you're playing against, well, you could buy this Withering Whip and you could target them to disarm them and reduce their bullet resist. So they can't shoot. So if they're about to do some wacky stuff, you can just disarm them for 3 seconds, and that'll be really effective at countering one of your opponents. You also have the go-to standard MOBA ones, like reset all the cooldown of all your abilities and restore all your charges. So that's definitely one to keep in mind, of course. And they're all in different tiers, you know. Some of them are cheaper, some of them more expensive, but there are a ton of different abilities here, so I suggest you check them out. Knockdown, you can, after a 3-second delay, they get knocked down and stunned. So again, a lot of CC here. You got Warp Stone, Teleport, really effective as well. You can teleport ahead of yourself. So lots of different stuff here that gives you some more optionality in how to shut down opponents or to make yourself stronger for a short amount of time. All right, so that is a large chunk of the items. Now, the remaining items are just passive effects. So these are items that you buy them, and they do a passive effect. They make you stronger in some kind of way based on what you're doing and what kind of gameplay you have. So close quarters, See, passive, deal additional weapon damage when in close range to your target, so plus 25 weapon damage if you are closer than 15 meters, right? We got Tesla bullets. Your bullets have a chance to shock your target. The shock will jump to a different nearby enemy, and you see 60 damage on jump, 25% proc chance, 8 meters jump radius, and 2 max jumps. So you got headshot booster, deal bonus weapon damage with headshots, and these are basically like a ton of items. All of the, not all of them, but a lot of items just give you this kind of like passive. So you can just go down this. Escalating resilience, grant bullet resist. When your bullets hit an enemy hero, each shot can only grant 1 stack. And a lot of these items just give you a passive kind of thing. And so that's something you have to keep in mind. With headshots, reduce the target's bullet and spirit resist. So it's a lot. There's a lot of information here, and it's going to take you quite some time to learn what all of these things do and what is best for each individual hero. But there's all kind of stuff here. Your bullets temporarily steal max HP from enemies. Enemies regain their stolen health when the debuff expires. So that is going to be a large chunk of these abilities are going to be these passive kind of items that gives you stats, but also gives you a certain passive that enhances a way for you to play your hero. So that is going to be pretty much everything the shop has to offer. And obviously, if you're a spirit user, if you're a spirit hero, then this spirit is going to make your attribute, your stat better, like we already talked about. And there's all these different ways to enhance your spirit as well. So imbue an ability with bonus spirit damage on the first hit. When the ability is used, your weapon is rolled and has a fire rate bonus for that clip. So tons of different items here. I urge you to explore, but I'd say those are the different categories of items that you can find here in the shop. Some abilities also have charges, and you can see that by the white bar above the ability. You can increase these charges by buying items such as rapid recharge, or you can also imbue abilities with additional passive effects like Search of Power that gives me permanent spirit power.
You're not gonna regret that.
So now I went from 1 charge to 4 charges.
I see. Taking the shot.
Okay, we can finally talk about heroes in this game, which is obviously what you're going to be playing in this game and what you'll be facing most of the time. And so there's a lot of different heroes in the game currently, a lot of different skill sets, and a lot of things to be aware of when it comes to these heroes. So I'll just quickly talk about all the heroes that are currently in the game, talk about their skill sets, their abilities, and what they kind of like specialize at, because they're all very different. Talk an overview though, all the heroes overall. We can go here to this screen, to the hero screen, and if I hover over this button, you can see that these are the levels that your character will get, and how many souls required to reach those levels. So at the bottom of this graphic, you can see that 0, I'll of course get my first ability when I start the game, and then I need 400 souls to reach level 2. That's when I get an additional ability unlock, which is kind of, you know, this symbol is like a purple kind of like lock as well, which means that at level 2 I get my second ability. And then I also get AP, and AP is this kind of like lightning bolt purple icon as well. AP is what I use to like enhance my abilities, kind of like your talents, if you will, or ways for me to evolve my abilities and give them extra kind of like status effects. Some of this will be extra damage, it'll be increased duration, increased range, lower cooldown, sometimes it'll be lifesteal, spirit shield. It gets really complicated. So you got all the abilities in the game multiplied by all the talents, of course, that people, or you know, all the AP that people will put into their abilities to make them stronger or enhance them. So you know, only if you're like the top 0.1% will you actually like strategically think about what AP your enemy has committed to their abilities. But that is obviously going to be something that is important as you make a build later on, and you say that I really want to spec into this AP early on because it's really powerful in the early game, or what have you. So that's the way for you to kind of like navigate if you want to emphasize, you know, creep waving and become really good at like last hitting minions, or if you want to gain some early power and maybe be better at when it comes to like dueling enemy heroes. So you can see the amount of souls required to reach the next level. You can see the power increase as well, and this changes per hero. So Abrams, each power increase grants 0.32 base bullet damage, plus 3.4 base melee damage. That is why the melee build, like I've said in this video, is quite effective for Abrams here, because you know he gets more base melee damage, and you get base health there as well. Now, it is worth noting that in the first 5 levels you'll see here, 400, 800, 1.2, 1.5, I only get 3 ability unlocks, of course. So I need to be level 5 to unlock my 3rd ability, and then I need to be level 7 to unlock, my 4th ability, which is going to be your ultimate, right? And so the first 4 levels, I only have 2 abilities, and so I have to select those 2 abilities pretty carefully in level 1, level 2, because that's how I survive until level 5, which we'll get later too in the game. If you scroll through to some of these different heroes as well, you see that it remains the same, whatever souls required to level up to the next level, but it does change the power increase, and you can see here, for example, for Bebop you get bullet resist as well. I can move on to Great Talon and check this. I get base bullet damage, but some base health there as well. So it changes a little bit per character here, but in large part it's going to be your stat increases across all these different heroes. Now, I also covered, of course, in the shop as well, that if you take a look at some of the attributes on the right hand side of your screen, some of the spirit heroes are going to have kind of like an enhanced spirit multiplier based on how much spirit you have. So we have 7, which we covered. You get more movement speed, but for some heroes it's going to differ. So Warden, with the more spirit you have, the more bullets per second you shoot, so your fire rate is going to go up the more spirit you have. And then as well for Wraith, that's going to be more sprint speed. And for a hero like Great Talon, it's also move speed. And for Haze, it's actually ammo. So the more spirit you have, the more ammo you have in your magazine that you can fire, of course. And so that's going to change as well, the more spirit you have, and based on what character you're playing. Now, there's no set roles in Deadlock, but they are kind of like tankier in some regard. Some of them are more like support oriented, they buff their allies, for example. Some heroes like Haze, for example, is going to be really useful like single target and getting up close and dealing large amount of damage to a single target. And as well, you got a hero like Kelvin, another support character. So some of them are tankier, some of them are more fragile but deal more damage. And then you have heroes like Lady Geist, which throws, a lot of spirit-based abilities here, but it's also a little bit weaker. So there are no set roles, but I'm going to throw up this graphic on screen. And this graphic is wrong. This graphic is wrong, guys, because I haven't played a ton of this game, and it's still evolving, and players are getting better all the time. And it's not supposed to be like a snapshot of current meta, but it's going to give you a rough idea that there are some tankier heroes and there are some more fragile heroes that deal more damage, and then there's kind of like your support characters in between. So I swear to God, if there's anyone on Discord who pings me and are like, this chart is trash, I don't know, well, maybe I should take more responsibility because I'm making this video, but the point of the idea is that they're going to be tankier heroes that are good at like initiating, getting up close, and then you have long range characters like Great Talon, who are like your snipers in the game, who want to stay far away. But if they stay far away, they can deal quite a lot of damage over time. So no set roles, but that gives you an idea anyway. Now, I'm going to take time to go over some recordings I made of every single hero to just break down the basic abilities. If you want more advanced education, I suggest you go check out some advanced guides. There's already people who are posting their builds for certain heroes, and they post also their playstyle, what they want to achieve in the first few minutes, what they want to do in the mid game, and what they want to do in the end game. So I'm just going to give you the basic preview of each hero here, but then I suggest you seek out other content to really familiar yourself with a character that you like more, and then you can specialize on that hero and get better over time. But here we go. We're going to transition into some basic gameplay for every single hero here. And go ahead, enjoy. Okay, so we're gonna go through every hero in the game, and I'm just gonna break down the basic abilities and what they do. Playstyle is going to shift a lot as we go through all these heroes and as people get even better in the game, but here's at least the fundamentals and the basic of each hero. So each hero has a different gun in the game. As you can see, Abrams here has a bit of a revolver, pretty easy, click, very basic gun in that sense. And let's move on to the abilities. So the first ability is this kind of like cone damage, which is also lifesteal for Abrams. So if you get up close, it's really effective at healing you on creeps. The second ability is a bit of a charge, similar to Reinhardt in Overwatch, where you charge forward and you grab someone with you and you slam them into the wall. So that can be really effective if you want to combine you know, a punch in there because you actually stun them against the wall. Next up, we got Infernal Resilience, which regenerates some of the damage you've taken. So if you're taking a lot of damage in the lane, you actually heal that damage over time. And the ultimate is called Seismic Impact. You leap into the air, and then you crash down, dealing a lot of damage to people around here. One of the keys to good value on Abrams is actually going to be your Infernal Resilience, which regenerates a portion of incoming damage over time. This is going to help you early on in the game as you take some damage, but you quickly regenerate it, meaning you have more uptime in your lane. There are also some items in the game that are going to boost your melee, such as Melee Lifesteal. Your melee attacks heal you for 20% of the melee damage plus 90. And Spirit Strike, when you perform a light or heavy melee attack against a hero, deal extra spirit damage. And Melee Charge, increase your heavy melee charge distance. When you perform a heavy melee attack against an enemy, your weapon reloads instantly. So you're going to buff up your melee as well as regenerate some of the damage you've taken. This can be a really effective build on Abrams, and it's certainly a lot of fun. Okay, so we're gonna change up the hero here to Bebop, and this is in the recording where I realized that maybe I should actually hover over the tooltips. So we'll take a look here at the abilities that Bebop has here. Some similarities to Clockwork. You can see that the primary fire is a bit of a laser gun here. It's a beam. It's got quite a bit of ammo in that regard, but yeah, nice little beam here. For the first ability, we got Exploding Uppercut. Deal light melee damage to nearby units and send them flying back and causing area damage. So you can see that, you know, I get close to this opponent. I do a bit of an uppercut. Deal damage to him. And most abilities in this game, they're going to apply some kind of debuff as well. Next up, we got Sticky Bomb. I attach a Sticky Bomb to a target. It's going to beep a bunch. And it deals damage in AoE. So that's going to be quite effective in AoE damage. And I combine that with my nearby melee enhanced punch. Now, next up, a familiar ability to a lot of people. We got Hook. Launch out a hook that grabs and reels in the first enemy. Boom. So if you got, you know, an opponent that's nearby a tower, for example, you know, pull them out of there. Hyper Beam is going to be the ultimate. You can jump up into the air and you channel this huge kind of like beam. There's tons of DPS. You can see there 360 DPS. And you can see it looks menacing. That's a lot of damage. That's a lot of damage. That's going to be lethal. Right there. So a lot of interesting abilities here with Bebop. Quite the powerful character. Next up, who do we got? I don't remember what order I recorded this. We got Viscous. Now, Viscous is a bit like a tank support hero. Has some good sustain. We'll take a look at the abilities one by one. First off, we got this kind of like slower rate of fire, kind of like machine gun looking thing. You're shooting some goo. Because it's all about the goo. And let's take a look at the abilities here. So first one's going to be Splatter. Throw a ball of goo, it deals damage and leave puddles of goo behind and apply a movement slow. So you could slow it in the goo. There you go. And you're going to slow this out. This puddle. There's the puddle. And you can see it applies a movement slow to them as well. And it jumps as well. As you can see there's two of them. Next up here, we got the Cube. Now, you can target this on allies, or you can do it yourself by self-casting, which is a setting you have if you want to, like, adjust the way you cast on yourself. You become a cube, you heal for a little bit, and then you come out. You're a little bit stronger. You can see you're buffed up. You're ready to go. You got a bit of an aura. And then we have the Puddle Punch, which is a punch, but it's not really like a close-range punch. You conjure up a punch from the ground. And so you don't have to be super close to deal with this. You can see here I walk up and I do it. But as I walk back, you can see I have two charges here. I walk back and I can conjure up a punch from quite a bit far away. So there you go. Puddle Punch. Boom. And they get pooped up. Alright. I think I get to the ultimate next. And the ultimate is going to be the big thing about Viscous and why he's so sustain heavy. You become a goo ball, and you can see the duration for 18 seconds. You become a goo ball, and this gets crazy. Maybe like a bit like Wrecking Ball in Overwatch. You deal damage to people as you bump into them. And you can see that I'm rolling around, and it's all about kind of like bouncing off the environment here to maintain movement speed. I'm going to reset this ultimate, so we'll see more of it. But I'm bouncing around with my goo ball, and I deal damage. Now, I'm going to buy an item here so I can reset that ultimate. But you can go fast, so you can end up going really fast with Viscous here using this ultimate, and you can just be an absolute menace, bouncing around, maintaining high movement speed. And I don't really do a great job here in the practice range, but you will notice that if you see like great players play this hero, they're going to be very quick, and you also get like a lot of resist when you enter that ult form, and so you can't actually like die that easily in that form. I end up buying the refresher here, and so you're very sustain heavy, and you're just bouncing around. And here's I'm gonna hold in my mouse click to go faster, and you can kind of see like I'm bumping around. I can start jumping as well, jump off the environment. So there's a very high skill floor here with this hero, learning how to do this effectively, and you can be a menace, deal tons of spirit damage. And it's a really fun, interesting hero in that regard. So you can be all over the place, heal your allies, slow people down, and become a goo ball. So people love this hero. Very fun character. Something to keep in mind with Viscous is that you can activate your abilities while you're in your goo ball form. This is especially helpful as Puddle Punch is going to propel you upwards and give you some more movement speed. So you use your goo ball form. And you can become a little bit faster using this one.
That punching strangers would feel so good. Attacking.
All right, let's change it up here to whatever hero I'm going to next. It's going to be Mo and Krill. All right, so Mo and Krill. It's a bit of a tankier here, as you can see by the large model. Got a machine gun handy here. I don't know who is Mo and who is Krill, to be honest with you. It'd probably take 1 minute to find out, but I haven't done my research. You got a bit of a machine gun there. All right, let's take a look at the abilities. You got Scorn, deal damage to nearby enemies and heal yourself. You can see it says 2x hero damage to heal. So if you do this on heroes, you're in twice the amount of healing. Boom. You can see it's a bit of an AoE there. So I deal damage and I also heal. So that's going to be quite effective. I get close to people and I utilize that. Next up we got Burrow. So you're going to go underground here and move around, and then you can like come up and you start spinning. You start spinning real fast. You can take damage when you're burrowing. I don't know the exact mechanics. You can take damage, but you come up and you start spinning. You do like a bit of a whirlwind. I think I'm gonna have another look at that as well. But yeah, you see there, this 80% bullet resist, 30% spirit resist. You get some movement speed, of course. But a really fun ability. And there you go. Now, this next ability is going to be real handy. It's called Sand Blast, and it sprays sand that disarms enemies in front of you and deals damage. So it also gives you a 50% movement slow to targets, of course. And you can see when I use this ability, there's like the gun, the flashing gun with a strike over it. That means the enemy is disarmed, so they can't shoot. It's going to be real handy if, you know, players are trying to gank you, or if someone activates a lot of CDs and, you know, jumps in, you can disarm them. And next up we got Combo. People will be familiar with this ultimate as well. You hold a target in place and you start bashing him. So you can stun an opponent for that entire ultimate duration, and you hold them in place and everyone can follow up and deal tons of damage to that single target. When playing Mo and Krill, don't sleep on the mobility that Burrow provides. You have an easy time getting in and out of combat, and you get a lot of movement speed as well while doing so. Okay, next up, We got Dynamo, which is a little bit of a tank. He's like 650 health, pretty beefy, but mostly like a utility kind of character, I would say, based on the kit this hero has. Some you know, abilities will be pretty familiar to you if you played MOBAs before. I got a bit of a like a automated pistol here. The first one is kinetic pulse. Release an energy pulse that knocks enemies up into the air. We can take a look at this. As we throw this one out. Boom. They get booped up. They're a bit vulnerable, as you can see by the broken shield above them. So that's quite handy. Next up, we've got Quantum Entanglement. Dynamo briefly disappears into the void and then reappears a short distance away. On reappearing, your next weapon is reloaded as fire rate bonus for the next clip. Can be cast to also bring nearby allies in. So you can like, I think you can like grab allies and like bring them with you in the teleport. And then you're gonna see I'm teleporting. You can see my magazine, I got 12 out of 18 right now. I come out of this, I got 40 out of 40. And I'm shooting way faster. So I can bring someone with me with a short teleport. I can buff my magazine, but also buff my allies. Next up, we got Rejuvenating Aura. Restore health over time to you and any allies nearby. Pretty basic. Just nearby heal. So, a beefy support this kind of character is, I'd say. And next up, we got Singularity, which everyone will be familiar with. You pull everyone in all around you. Really effective ultimate. 180-second cooldown. So, a massive ultimate, of course. And boom. There you go. And you also deal damage based on percentage of health. So, you know, especially in the late game, there's going to be a ton of damage if you deal based on however much health they have. Okay. What do we got? We got Warden. The police. The officer. Okay, Warden has a machine gun. Yeah, as you can see. Firing away. And it's going to be like an initiator tank hero that has quite a bit of mobility. The first one we got is Alchemical Flask. Smash an alchemical flask at your feet. And I go up close and I do it here, but you can also toss this. Now, it is worth noting when you toss it, it like kind of like drops down, so you can throw it like however far. You can see when I do this here. Like you'd think it'd go farther, but it actually kind of like slows down a little bit. We got willpower, again a spirit shield and bonus movement speed. So this is going to be effective if you're kind of like initiating. You can see again 350 spirit shield there next to my health bar, and again some movement speed as well. This is going to combine well with my ultimate, which we'll get to. And then next up, I got Binding Word, which is my third ability. Curse an enemy hero. If they don't move away from their initial position within the escape time, they will be damaged and immobilized. Reduces target stamina on cast. So you can see I use this here on this hero. And obviously they're not moving, so they can't escape it. But they get immobilized, and it'll be an easy, you know, target onto that hero that's immobilized, can't still. And then we've got Last Stand, which is the ultimate. So you're gonna charge this up. This is really good to do around corners, for example, as you're waiting for this channel time, and then initiate with your extra sprint speed. And you'll see that I do, like, in a cone, I deal a ton of damage as I chase people down. And you can fire during this. You can, you know, shoot your gun or what have you. So it's really good if you just activate that, and then you can like run down your opponent. So there you go. Towards the late game, Warden can become really good at running your opponents down, and especially initiating early with your spirit shield and your ultimate. You can see here, I'm on a flank, I activate my ultimate, and I go ahead and run them down with a lot of damage in my frontal cone. Obviously, I overcook it a little bit, but 3 frags are enough for my team to go into the base and finish off a couple of shrines. Next up, we have Kelvin, which is another kind of support character. It depends on what build you're building towards here, but definitely specializes more in the spirit abilities. First of all, his gun. We have a snowball rifle launcher thingy. Pretty basic stuff. Pretty basic stuff for you there. And the first ability is has charges. It's called Frost Grenade. Throw a grenade that explodes in a cloud of freezing ice, damaging and slowing enemies. So, you know, you're an ice character. You slow people. Makes sense. Also has heal amount. So, there you go. Keep that in mind. I don't know if we can execute this right here. there we go. Some heal. Love that. Always good. Teammates love that. So yeah, you can get some charges there. The heal is an upgraded form of the ability, so you don't have it in the early game. So you'll have to level up before you can activate that heal. Next up we have Ice Path, which is a very unique ability. Kelvin creates a floating trail of ice and snow that gives movement speed bonuses to him and his allies. Kelvin gains 60% slow resistance for the duration. Enemies can also walk up on the floating trail. And so the best way to explain this item is just using it. And you're just gonna start running and create like an ice path behind you. And so a lot of people will look at this and be like, well, you're creating an ice path. Wow, that's cool. And now I fell off it. But it's actually really useful because of the movement speed that it grants. It's gonna fade now. Damn it. I'll activate it again. Because you get really fast using this. I mean, you can see my movement speed in the left-hand side of my stats page. I got 14 meters per second. That's essentially doubling. Even more than doubling what I already had, right? And so you get really fast. And this is really good if you want to navigate between lanes. If you want to go pick up a rune. If you want to go gank in the lane. Don't sleep on the movement speed. It's really effective, and I think come pro play, organized play, people are going to utilize the fact that you get your teammates some extra move speed and you can move around the map. So, really good. Next up, we got Arctic Beam, which deals damage and also slows opponent. You can see for yourself, you got a bit of an AoE beam here, and you're going to slow people down. Combine that with grenades. You got a lot of spirit and a lot of slow going on. So, Kelvin is going to be a bit of a pin in the bum. Pin in the bum. I'll be the first one to say it. Got a lot going on here. That's pretty awful to deal with. Next up for the ultimate, we got Frozen Shelter. Kelvin freezes the air around him, creating an impenetrable dome around himself. While in the dome, allies rapidly regenerate health and enemies are slowed. So you can see 190 health regen. That's pretty good. That's pretty good right there. Oh, this is an upgraded, but still pretty good. And so you can see it for yourself. I create bit of a dome, ice dome around me. Heals my allies, which I'm not gonna spawn in time. I'll get a few up for the next one as I buy this refresher. But as I showed the heal as well, I wanna, keep in mind that you can actually block enemies in. And so you think dome, impenetrable dome, you think, okay, that will keep enemies out. They'll make sure that no enemies are getting to us if we're running away, if we want to heal up, if we want to protect. But also, I mean, you can use this offensively. You can trap enemies inside this dome. And so if you successfully get close to maybe an opponent that's overextended, for example, you can put this one in, you can trap them, and suddenly you and your allies have now isolated this target, right? And so that's really effective, especially for team fight purposes. You cut off the enemy team in half. It's impenetrable. Playing against Kelvins are so annoying. And so this dome is really effective, really good ability. And so overall, Kelvin, pin in the bum. That's how we describe him. Pin in the bum. Next up, we got Lash here, who's a really interesting hero. Got like a bit of a boxer kind of concept art here. We got a burst rifle, kind of like close gun here. And it's all about the whip. So we're going to take a look at the abilities here. We got ground strike. Stomp the ground beneath you, damaging enemies in front of you. If you perform ground strike while airborne, you quickly dive towards the ground. Damage grows slower after 25 meters. So I'm going to use this twice. You can see I'm doing this in front of me. It's a bit of a kick. Street Fighter-esque. And then I'm also going to double jump and use this, and you can see me diving down towards the bots. And there you go. And they get a bit of a debuff there as well. You got grapple, pull yourself through there toward a target, and it also restores 1 stamina charge and all air jumps and dashes. So you can really get creative with your movement here with grapple. And you can see in this case, I'm kind of slamming down into the ground, but you can grapple, keep air dashing, you get more stamina. You got flog, strike enemies with your whip, stealing life from them. It says heal 80% versus heroes, 30% versus, creeps or what have you. There you go. Bit of a whip, life steal. It's good if you're a close range kind of character. And next up, we got Death Slam. So you're kind of targeting in a channel here, and then you lift targets up and you slam them down. So you can see damage, max throw distance, movement slow. This is a badass ultimate. Like, this character in general is just badass. Lift him up.
They actually thought they had a chance.
Boom. But yeah, you can see this character becomes just so much fun. So much fun. Awesome design. With some additional items, Lash can get really crazy movement with additional charges on grapple. This allows you to jump through the air while also resetting some of your movement and basically keep it going. Since ground strike damage is also increased by your damage per meter, the more time you spend in the air and the more you move, the more damage you're going to deal, ultimately. To the next one. Let's move on to the next one here. We got McGinnis. This is going to be your engineer slash... Yeah, I guess your engineer. You got a heavy machine gun here. If you play Team Fortress 2, you know what this is about. Got quite a large kind of like recoil there. Spread, I mean. And you got mini turret. So here you go. If you buff this ability with your ability power, you gain an additional turret as well. You're going to see here, I'll throw out this mini turret. It has some spirit resist. And I'll go to work. Look at it go. And it's going to last for quite some time here. You'll see I end up using my second turret charge. And we'll have 2 turrets going at once. These can be quite tedious to deal with, but I mean, there's turrets, right? Like you can, if you're a great player in this game, you can easily deal with turrets for the time being. So McGinnis isn't the most popular hero by enemies, currently at least in the current state of the game. Next up, we got Medicinal Spectre. I'll deploy a little like tool that heals around itself. You can see when I pull this one out, it also deals fire rate bonus. Deploy this thing. And you can see it drains like the green goo while it's healing. So, pretty basic heal. There you go. Next up, we got Spectral Wall, which is going to be a huge wall. It's going to be a huge wall that divides the terrain in half. On creation, the wall deals damage and applies slow. It's 25% movement slow. So you can see I send it forward, and then I activate the ability. And when I activate it, there'll be like a big wall there. Removes 1 stamina and amplifies McGinnis as well. Heavy Barrage unleashes a volley of rockets. Now, this ultimate, when it happens, you'll know. Because it sounds menacing. And you can see that I can move my character. I can move my aim where I'm firing these rockets. But this is a lot of damage. Obviously, you're slowed during this ultimate. So you're quite vulnerable. But you also deal so much damage that you like enemies just want to get out of the way, you know? When playing McGinnis, you can build up your mini turret charges. And here I have 5 of them. But one thing to keep in mind is, don't simply just put them in front of you. Instead, put them somewhere where they're a bit harder for your opponent to actually kill them as well. These can be in spots around the corners, for example, where they will have to peek out to actually deal with these, which is going to put them in a line of fire where they'll take more damage. Whereas, for example, if they were just placed in the middle, then they would have an easier time mitigating damage while dealing with them effectively. So, when you're placing mini turrets, make sure you utilize a wide angle to get the most value out of these and make them harder to kill. As for the wall, remember that you can use it defensively to block off your opponent, but you can also use it in a different fashion where you can use it to trap your enemies inside your line of sight. That's going to prevent them from fleeing, and especially it's useful if you want to trap someone in while using your ultimate ability. This is going to make sure that you land more rockets before they're able to use their stamina to escape, and ultimately it's going to make your ultimate more powerful. Next up we have Ivy, who has a very fast shooting kind of gun. And is a very interesting character because of the unique skill set we have here. So first of all, we have Kudzu Bomb, summon a patch of choking vines that damages and slows enemies in its radius. So pretty basic, spirit power, slow. It's a pain to play against an Ivy because this has charges, so you can get a lot of charges going. and there'll be a lot of slow going on in some areas you want to fight. I can't believe I missed that in practice range. Next up to some of the support abilities, we have Watcher's Covenant, which gain bonuses and automatically connect with a nearby ally to share them. Healing is replicated among all those connected. Connection requires line of sight, press E to lock onto a target. So essentially you give a buff to your teammates, you have bullet life, steal, fire rate, as you can see, but also you replicate healing, and that is pretty noteworthy because that means that if you activate healing abilities, your teammates who are tethered, they get healing as well. And this, you get an extra tether count as well when you level this ability up. Next up we have Stone Form. Turn yourself into impervious stone and smash into the ground, stunning and damaging enemies nearby. Heals you for a percentage of your max health, and it says max health heal 30%, so quite a significant heal there. So already if you utilize Watcher's Covenant and Stone Form together, you're going to heal some of the teammates you've tethered. So I got 2 bots here that have taken some damage. Okay, they're actually regenerating health while I'm doing this, so I'll spawn a couple more, and I can activate Watcher's Covenant and latch onto target. You can see that now, and as I use my impervious stone, they got healed for a little bit. But you can obviously abuse this tether and this healing because it's, you know, it's such an effective ability at healing now when you can tether to your teammates. So there are items in the shop, for example. I bought Health Nova, which is an active item, which has heal yourself and nearby allies. Heals an additional 20% per ally. So that's pretty good because you're stacking up with your tethered teammates and you're healing. They get some healing at that, and it gets even better. And then, of course, you got Healing Right as well. Grant regen and sprint speed to the target. Get dispelled if you take damage from enemy players or objectives. 370 total HP regen. And so you can tether up to your teammates. You can use Healing Right, and they'll get some of that healing as well. And so very effective at healing your teammates in a pretty close range then, utilizing your Watcher's Covenant and then Stone Form, of course. Now for the ultimate, we got Airdrop, which is actually a new ultimate ability for Ivy, whereas before it didn't really make sense for the character, but they introduced Airdrop instead. So it says, take flight with an ally or bomb. Ally gains bullet resist while flying. Drop your ally or bomb to cause a large explosion that causes movement slow and silence. Ivy and ally gain a bullet shield when flying ends. And so, yes, you pick up a teammate and then you drop them down. Now, I think it says here somewhere. I think that they can drop down, actually. They can, your teammate, you can't grief your teammate. So they actually can drop by their own accord. But obviously that would defeat some of the purpose of the ability. And so, I don't know if I can use a bot, actually. Maybe I should try this before. Oh, you can. Okay, that didn't work. But, yeah, you start flying. You have a bomb, and you can see the area. The area is actually massive. And you deal some damage, movement slow. I hit this target. And so I didn't pick up a teammate there. But you get a bullet shield as well, as you can see by the 540 here. And there's tons of resist. You get resist, your ally get resist. And of course you know, you can also level this ability up, so the enemies that you hit, they get negative bullet resist. So just a big bomb. It's a big bomb, and obviously if you got a teammate that needs initiating somehow, you can pick up your tank, drop them down, they initiate, then you tether to them, you heal them, you slow people. So very interesting character, especially with this new ultimate, but really abuse the healing from Watcher's Covenant, because that's going to be really powerful if you get some of these healing items as well. So there you go, that's Ivy. Okay, next up, we got Lady Geist, who is a very unique, you got a pistol, basically a little pistol here. And this is going to be your spellcaster, lifesteal, warlock, demon, vampire. Vampire is probably the best word. Got SS bomb. Sacrifice some health to launch a bomb that deals damage after a brief arm time. Self-damage type is spirit and can be mitigated. So you can see already 30 self-damage. Throw this out. I'll deal some damage. So you sacrifice some health to deal quite a little bit of damage. You got life drain, create a tether that drains enemy health over time and heals you. So it says there you can buff this 55 damage per second. And also there's a silence in there. There you go. So you can attach this. Boom. You can shoot while it's up, while you're draining life. So not only are you taking your own life to deal damage, but you also got lifesteal. Sacrifice some of your health to launch blood shards that apply a stack of Malice. Now, Malice, you can have 5 max stacks.
This is just a taste of what
And I do a poor job of showing this ability out, but it's a short cooldown. I throw this out. And you can see that I take like 70 damage. I take like 70 damage when I throw it out. Health to damage, as you see on the ability. But I can stack this Malice debuff. Next up, we got Soul Exchange. Swap health levels with an enemy target. There's a minimum health percentage. This is real close range. You can see it's 7 meters. So you have to be 7 meters, real close to your opponent. So you can, I can't do it. I walk up. And I swap my health. I get health. The enemy takes damage. Enemy min health 20%. Min health received 30%. So you can make some plays with that one if you drop low. I did a poor job showing off this hero. It's a complicated one, but can get real fun if you like the kind of like lifesteal playstyle. This damage amplification. The more you use it on your opponent, you'll see the damage debuff stacking. And with each debuff, you're going to deal more damage to this target.
misery comes for you. It starts with a simple cut.
Ultimately, with a lot of stacks, you can really start to scale Lady Guy's damage, and you'll get a lot more value. So keep that in mind. You will be losing HP, but you'll deal a lot more damage. Next up, what do we got? Not this one. Let's do Wraith. Here we go. Another really cool, unique character. You can see that I got a bit of a machine gun here going with this. And there's a random card that appeared. Don't worry, I'll explain what this card does. But I'm just showcasing the gun first. For our first ability,
Hope they got the message.
we got Card Trick. Deal weapon damage to summon cards. Activate to throw a card that flies towards the enemy or point under your crosshair. 150 damage, charges 2. Now, I started out with 1, but you can see I deal damage. And I will build this card up. Now I have 2 cards, I have both charges, and I can toss these out to deal damage. These deal AoE. I'll show this off later. But there we go. Next up, Project Mind. A teleport to the target location. I get bullet shield on teleport. Big teleport. You can see I can do it, you know, on high ground if I want to, or just straight forward. And I get some bullet shield. There we go. Can move around the map quite easily. Full auto. Temporarily boost your fire rate. Nearby allies receive half of that as well. So, team-wide buff. And I got my cards. Some nice damage. Telekinesis. Lift an enemy hero into the air, interrupting them, preventing ability and item use for a short time. When the lift ends, the target receives telekinesis damage. So, single target, or... Sorry, not single target. You can see it's kind of like a multi-grab slam, which CC is really powerful in this game. As I go ahead and swap this hero. CC is really powerful in this game. If someone is channeling some kind of ability and you get to do that, that's quite the useful ultimate. Especially if you can get many characters in once. Okay. Let's move on here to the next character. We got Pocket. Got a bit of a shotgun action here. I'm showing off kind of like the drop off here with the damage as well. First ability we have is Barrage. Channel to start launching projectiles to deal damage and apply movement slow around their impact point. Each projectile land on a hero grants you stacking beat, but that amplifies all your damage. So if you throw this out, you'll deal damage. But you can see on the left... Oh, you can't actually see it because my webcam is in the way. Move it quickly. It's a buff that says Barrage damage amp 4. So obviously amplifies your damage. So quite a complicated ability, but neat nonetheless. Get some damage amp, movement slow. You deal damage at the same time. In this case, you can't see it, but I only have 3. So there we go. Flying Cloak. Launch a sentient cloak that travels forward and damages enemies. And you can also teleport to this cloak, so you'll see. I can teleport for it. I don't have to teleport. It gives me the option to teleport, which creates some mind games. Like, am I teleporting or am I not? Enchanter's Satchel. Escape into your suitcase. I disappear for some time. Come out. Deal damage. That looked like it dealt way more damage than it did, but there you go. And then we got Affliction, which applied damage over time in an aura around me. It's non-lethal, so you're going to see this is up for a long time, and I deal a lot of damage, but it's non-lethal. So I can't finish off these heroes with this ultimate. If I want to kill them, I'll have to shoot my gun or use some other ability, or someone else will have to finish them off. And there you go. Pocket is one of my favorite heroes, personally, because when you get really good at this hero, you get a lot of movement and a lot of effective spirit damage abilities, because all of your abilities deal some form of damage. Obviously, your barrage, your flying cloak deals damage, and even your enchanter's satchel deals damage. And this is going to scale with the spirit you have, but also when you upgrade the abilities. And so you can effectively go in, initiate, and deal a lot of damage all at once. You are going to be a little bit more fragile, of course, because you are somewhat of a spellcaster in the mid game, and so don't necessarily want people to get on top of you. And also because of your ultimate affliction, you want to go in and apply this and essentially get out, because it's not, you know, it's not a long-lasting AoE around you. Once you actually cast it, the enemy has that debuff on top of them. And so if I spawn some bots over here, for example, I'll make a bit of a target for us over here. You can go in with affliction, and then the goal is to get out with your life intact, essentially. And so I sometimes, if we're defending, I'll take this rail, you know, I'll go in, utilize my ultimate, send my cloak away, hide, and then take the cloak out. That was a pretty hack job by me in the practice range here. But essentially, if you can maintain kind of like your air movement, that's going to be really effective. And so I use a lot of stamina builds personally, because that's going to give me the opportunity to not abuse this rail, actually, because you don't want to do that, especially not when you're attacking. But to get around, and also because your barrage, you can activate it while you're in the air and you'll float. You can see that you'll actually gain the ability, god, this rail is so annoying, to stay in the air quite a bit. Then you can throw your cloak and basically just layer it. Having the item Majestic Leap helps with this as well. And so despite the fact that my execution has been awful in the practice range here, when I introduced this video by saying being good at the hero, but you really can engage in a lot of fun ways here and maintain air control. But yeah, it requires some practice to utilize all these abilities effectively. I like to buy Ethereal Shift in the late game, especially because when you do dive in with Affliction, that's going to give you another few seconds of invulnerability. And for those of you who don't know what it does, you enter a void state, you become untargetable and invincible for a short duration, during which you cannot move or perform any actions. So it's essentially the same thing as an Enchanter's Satchel, but only one more ability that kind of protects you in that way. Some people, they really like to build towards Diviner's Kevlar, which says upon casting an ultimate ability, in this case that's going to be our Affliction, gain temporary bullet shield and spirit power, which we like spirit power. But this is a pretty costly item, of course, costs 6,300 souls, which is pretty expensive. And so, you know, I question whether it's worth getting this much shield for yourself. That sounds more like a solo carry kind of thing. Whereas in the late game especially, maybe there's more helpful team abilities or CC abilities that could benefit your team more if you'd like to target winning the game. But yeah, there we go. That's essentially how I don't want to say, well, good players, that's how they will try to execute with Pocket's abilities here. Utilize all the spirit damage you have, getting in and out, and staying in the air, utilizing Barrage and Majestic Leap. You can get a lot of fun out of this hero. Alright, let's move on to the next one. We got Vindicta, which is going to be kind of like your sniper kind of character. You can already see the gun itself. It doesn't act like it. It's a machine gun when you primary fire, but it looks like a sniper, and that will be telling when we come to the ultimate. First ability we got here, after I stop firing my gun, it's going to be Stake. Throw a stake that tethers enemies to the location where the stake lands. Enemy movement is restricted to the length of the tether. So you throw this at an opponent, and they're kind of like tethered, of course, like the ability describes, to that location. So it's neat for holding your target in place. Next up, we got flight. Leap into the air and fly. While in flight, you can shoot. And you got long range here. So I'll go backwards, and you can see I'm dealing some damage. So sometimes you'll just see Vindicta just flying around from far away and just sniping. Next up, you get Crow. You deal, put a debuff on your target. It deals bleed damage based on the health. So it's gonna tick up. The damage is gonna tick up based on how much health the target has. It's not going to be flat damage. And then you have Assassinate, which is going to be the ultimate. This is your big sniper, kind of like bullet. It deals bonus damage to enemies with less than 50% health remaining. And if you land a killing blow, you grant bonus souls. So here I get 850 bonus souls per assassination. I can be far away. And I get some bonus souls. This one has 75% health. And I deal slightly less damage. Now you're going to see the cooldown is low on this. 20 seconds. So 30-second total cooldown on this one as well. Couple of charges in this variant anyway. So, I mean, you can use this quite a bit, especially if targets are under half health. You know, there's going to be quite a bit of damage and you can stack up the souls. So, your sniper character in Vindicta. If you successfully stake multiple people, keep in mind that your Crow familiar is going to jump between two targets once you bought the ability power. Also, because your ultimate, Assassinate, has charges, keep that in mind, as you're going to have the opportunity to build more of these charges if you want to itemize accordingly, and you can get real lethal once in flight. Which is kind of like your ninja sword character. You can see I'm kind of like flinging knives here with my primary fire, and we got a couple of close range sword abilities. We got Power Slash, channel to increase damage over 1.5 seconds, then release a fully charged sword strike. And you can see the full charge damage is increased by the amount of spirit you have. You got movement slow and bullet resist. And you're gonna slice. Basic, you slice with the sword. This is Basics 101. And I can release this early if I want to. Or I can just wait the full charge. We got Flying Strike. Throw a grappling hook to reel yourself towards an enemy, damaging and slowing the target. Wait to get close to utilize all your other abilities. You're quite weak. Crimson Slash enemies in front of you, damaging them and slowing their fire rate. If any enemy heroes are hit, you heal. So it says 70 heal on hero hit. Obviously scales with spirit. So now we got two sword abilities. And we got a way to get close. And for the ultimate, we got Shadow Transformation. You're going to just go nuts. You're going to go nuts for 6.5 seconds. Your abilities are refreshed and are 60% faster. You become invincible. You can't die. Immunity to negative status effects. You can't take a lot of damage, but you'll be at like 1 health or whatever. Shadow form. And you just go crazy. This is your time. This is your time to shine. So, there's your blade warrior ninja assassin thing. All right, next up, we got Great Talon. It's going to be your archer, Hanzo, bowman, wind ranger. Just saying archer nicknames. Showing off the drop off. There's going to be drop off. You can see there I deal 13, 14 damage per shot. As I get closer, I deal more. So just because you're a sniper, you can't stand too far away. You have to be kind of close, otherwise you'll have drop off. You got charge shot. You charge up a powerful shot. Here you go. You got 2 charges here when you buffed it. But it is noteworthy that there are items in the shop, which I haven't gone over, that you can imbue abilities. So, and you can also get more charges. So you could have like, I don't know, 4 charges of charge shot and then imbue it so it's even stronger. So that can become like a focal point of your build. Next up, you got a thing, you leap up into the air, multi-fire. See some AoE.
Just as I planned.
And you can combine that with the charge shot. Just a lot of damage. You're a pretty vulnerable character. You don't have a lot going for you, but there is some damage. You got Immobilizing Trap. Throw out a trap against the arm itself. Once armed, the trap will trigger an enemy and its radius, immobilizing them. Deals some damage, but there's a 3-second immobilize. So this is going to be useful, of course. You immobilize targets. Easier to kill them. And there you go. Immobilizing people are quite handy. Alright, Guided Owl is the ultimate. You'll be familiar with this if you played Valorant. After a 1.5 second cast time, you become an owl. And you start flying. This owl. And then you can detonate it. And it'll deal damage. There you go. There is one thing. I'm gonna rewind this recording a little bit there. Gain permanent spirit power for each enemy hero killed with Guided Owl. So you can say with each kill, I get 5 spirit power. So that's going to be useful if you kill people with spirit with Guided Owl. You gain permanent spirit power. And also you can see I stack this ability up with my ability power. It says on the third one, which is the most expensive one, costs 5 to get there, or 8 in total. After hit, kills enemies that are below 22% health. So a bit of a finisher. You know, if someone's low, if they're under 22% health, you can throw out the Guided Owl. You get permanent spirits if you kill them. So there you go. Skipping ahead a little bit. Okay. Next hero we got here. It's going to be Haze. This is a bit of a close range assassin. It's going to be... You'll see this hero a ton in your lobbies. They're quite efficient at ganking, getting up close. Spirit increases your magazine size. So you can see I got 25 now. But the more spirit I have, I'll get more. Take a look at the ability. We've got Sleep Dagger. Throw a dagger that damages and sleeps the target. And it'll sleep them for 3 seconds. And you slow this one out. Pretty basic stuff. You throw it out. They sleep. As you'll see. Boom. Nap time. Nap time indeed. Okay, next up we got Smoke Bomb. Fade out of sight, becoming invisible and gain sprint speed. Now, when you are invisible, as you can see by this red ring, people can kind of like see you. So just because you're invisible, you're not like permanent invisible. If you get too close, they can kind of see you. But there you go. 20 meter spot radius. But it is good for moving around the map or like ganking when you get close. We've got Fixation. Shooting a target increases your bullet damage on that target. So, you know, if you stack Spirit, you gain more magazine, which means that you can build up these stacks. You got 16 max stacks, plus 0.55 damage per stack. And if you just shoot that enemy, you're going to deal so much damage over time to them. And then we got Bullet Dance, which is going to be your Reaper, kind of like ultimate from Overwatch here. You just deal tons of bullet damage around you. And then also you have evasion chance here. So if you use this, you know, people will shoot at you, but there's a 50% chance you'll evade those bullets as well. So worth keeping in mind. But you'll see this hero a lot. They'll be good at ganking and quite lethal. Because of Haze's ability kit, with abilities such as Fixation, which deals increased bullet damage on a target, as well as the Sleep Dagger, which you can activate when you're invisible by Smoke Bomb, Haze becomes really good at ganking. So you come out of stealth after you've stopped the target, and you rack up the stacks, which is going to lead to even more damage being dealt. This gets even stronger as you acquire items such as Kinetic Dash, which is going to increase your fire rate and ammo, as well as Whale Walker, if you really want to utilize these as much as you want. So ultimately, a really scary hero. Just make sure that the enemies, you are not within the red circle close to your enemies, because they will see you. But you can activate your Sleep Dagger when you're in stealth. Next up, you got your Pyromancer, which is called Infernus. And this one's a bit of a unique hero. They have a bit of a debuff going here, which I'll showcase to you. But first of all, we got a bit of like a automatic pistol hand fire gun. Next up, we got Catalyst, which will throw out napalm that slows enemy movement and amplifies the damage Infernus does to them. So, you know, think like your oil and fire combo. You throw this out, and, you know, it's going to enhance the rest of your abilities. So they got this debuff on them, as you can see. Next up, we got Flame Dash. You move forward at a high speed and leave a flame trail that burns enemies. So you can throw that oil out, and then you can run through, and you'll leave like a thing on the ground here. You can see deals damage to him. I'll utilize this once more. I went pretty slow there, but you can also hold in your I think it's the left mouse button, and you become like really fast when you leave this trail behind. Here you see, look at me go. And next up we got Afterburn, which is going to be the passive effect of this hero. Your bullets build up and apply a burning effect on enemies. Infernus bullets and abilities will refresh the durations. You can see 45 DPS, this scales with Spirit, 4-second burn duration. And so you'll see when I shoot these targets, it builds up like a debuff on top of the target. And we'll take an extended look on this. You can see there's like a fire logo. And that is going to be the debuff that deals damage. So you can see I build towards it, and now I'm just refreshing the duration. And I just need to tap. I just need to deal a little bit of damage for it to refresh. Next up, we got Concussive Combustion, which essentially, after a short duration, everyone will take massive damage around me. And there you go. So you kind of activate that after you jump into the fray right on top of the enemy team and deals tons of damage. All right, let's go ahead to the next hero, which is going to be 7, which is a fan favorite in Deadlock so far in the build. And we got this Burst Assault Rifle. And this is all about like electricity and shock, as you can see based on the character. We got Lightning Ball. Shoot a ball of lightning that travels in a straight line. Does damage to all targets in its radius. Slows down when damaging enemies. So you can see I throw this out, and it's still moving forward, but it's like moving forward at a slower rate. And then it disappears. It's quite a long radius. You can see I throw this one out, and it travels like really far. So if it collides with the environment, it'll stop, but then enemies will slow down. Static Charge. Apply a charge to a target enemy hero. After a short duration, it stuns them. So yeah, target this ability, and it'll stun people around that opponent. You can see even the ones on the left-hand side got stunned as well. Next we got Power Surge, which is going to be like your chain lightning kind of ability. You activate this and you fire, and your primary fire will jump to nearby enemies. So this is going to be great for wave clearing, for jungling. And as you stack up this ability in the late game, I mean, you're going to deal tons of AoE damage based on your primary fire to the opponent. And then we have Storm Cloud. You jump up into the air, and you just deal tons of AoE damage around you. Now, you are vulnerable in this form. You can see one of the ability powers is 35% bullet resist. So don't activate this when you're like 200 health, because you'll die. But you can see you can become like a Storm Cloud, and you'll deal tons of damage around you for a long time. And there you go. But yeah, as I said, you're quite vulnerable during your ultimate, so don't just use it when you're low HP. There are 2 builds that you can use for 7, at least currently popular. One of them is maximizing your Power Surge and making your Chain Lightning from your primary fire even more effective. As for 7's ultimate build, there are several items in the shop that will boost the effectiveness of Stormcloud. These include the ones such as Mystic Reverb, imbue ability to apply slow in a radius around the target, and deal an additional percentage of the damage dealt to enemies around the target after a short delay. Unstoppable, which we've gone over with Dynamo. Diviner's Kevlar, which upon casting an ultimate ability gain temporary bullet shield, spirit shield, and spirit power. And of course the Refresher, which can reset your ultimate. This is obviously going to mean that your ultimate is a lot stronger, and you also get some protection as well to keep you from getting CC'd once you use it. Next up we have Shiv, who is another melee, up close, shotgun kind of character that is really going to be lethal if up close, and if you get pretty decent scaling in this game. First of all, taking a look at the gun, got a bit of a, you know, hand pistol kind of looking thing. So, you know, a bit Abrams-esque in that you have a pretty close range kind of thing here. And so, you know, that kind of pretty much defines the character. Next up here, actually, before I explain the abilities, let me explain this first. On Killing Blow, which is the ultimate, you're going to see that it says passive in the second kind of description text here. So it's passive, damaging enemies fills you with rage. While at full rage, Shiv gains increased damage and special properties on his other abilities. And so, while I'm explaining these initial abilities, you'll see that there's this little rage bar here by the ability power. And as I deal damage, that's going to go up. And so you're not confused while I explain some of these other abilities here. And also there's going to be ability text here. So go into the first one, Serrated Knives. Throw a knife that damages and slows an enemy. Each additional hit adds a stack and refreshes the debuff duration. And so you can throw one knife out, deal some damage. It'll deal damage over time, and then you can throw another knife. It resets the debuff while also stacking that initial bleed damage, so it doubles. Ultimate unlock: while rage is full, knives will ricochet to another enemy and apply a slow to enemies they bleed. And so for the sake of demonstration here, I'm gonna throw a knife on this target right here. You can see, okay, throw a knife. Okay, pretty good. Let's see if I can get my rage up. It's not going to happen here probably. I think I need a little bit more. I'll throw a knife out, and then it's gonna ricochet. And you see it hits two targets instead. It ricochets. There you go. Also keep in mind, Serrated Knives, it's a charged ability, as you can see here by the white kind of things here. And so if you buy items, for example, like extra charge, you know, you'll get extra charges, and yeah, that can be useful. Next up, we have Slice and Dice. Perform a dash forward, damaging enemies along the path. Ultimate unlock: while rage is full, an echo of Shiv retraces the dash path after a short delay, damaging enemies again. And also, if you upgrade this ability, the cooldown will be significantly less, max 6 seconds. So you could have this up. If you hit a big dash, people are stacked up, you could have this up after 5 seconds again. But I'm gonna use it once. See, I dash. And what you probably did catch there is, because my rage was full, you saw that echo of Shiv. So I dash in, I deal damage enemies along the path, and then you'll see that there's like a little ghost echo thing that dashes again on the same path after me. I'll try it one more time. Actually, do I have enough rage? Yeah, I mean, I'll get rage from dashing in, but... And so it happens twice, because my rage meter is full from dealing damage. Alright, so the third one, Bloodletting. Take only a portion of incoming damage immediately and defer the rest to be taken over time. Activate to clear a portion of the deferred damage. So 40% of incoming damage is deferred over the 15-second duration. And on activate, deferred damage cleared. Ultimate unlock: while rage is full, the amount of damage deferred is increased. And so when you take damage, it's going to become a debuff, and you take that damage over time instead of taking it all immediately. So again, a little bit similar to Abrams in this regard, but a different kind of twist on the ability. And so this is where people who really know what they're doing here when they're playing around in Sandbox will get frustrated with me. But if I spawn an enemy, an Infernus for example, and I make it mimic me, and I press my ultimate, which we've actually yet to get to, it's going to activate its ultimate and damage me. And you can kind of see, what I want you to pay attention to is my health bar. It'll be like dark red, and it'll be like a light red, which symbolizes my deferred damage. So maybe we can take a look. Used it, and you can see there's some like orange little health bar here. That's damage that that's being deferred, so to speak. Okay, so I actually need to make this a mimic. So here we can go, and I'll activate. This time I'll activate Bloodletting. Actually, maybe I'll do a few of these. More mimics. More mimics. Okay, this is not going as planned. So I'm going to mitigate some of it. And I clear the deferred damage. And so, because it's 75% of deferred damage cleared, which again, that's actually because I've upgraded this ability. It's not this strong when you're level 1. Actually, let me change hero just so that the flavor text is better, and then we'll swap back here. I'm cooking. Let me cook. So yeah, you can see 50% deferred damage cleared, and so it's effectively an heal of the damage that you're taking over time. And so again, this is going to be effective in your laning phase. If if instead of having to buy like health regen items because you're a close range character with a little shotgun, by going into bloodletting early, that will allow you to heal some of that damage that you're taking because you are this close range kind of character, right? And so again, really good ability, and when you learn how to manage the percentage of this thing, being able to stack up bloodletting damage, but then also clearing it, it's going to be a very powerful kind of close range character. So kind of like Abrams, but I'd say a bit more risky because you got to play around with this damage deferred mechanic. All right, finally the ultimate. Pretty easy. It's an execute ability, meaning that if your enemy is really low health, you can finish them off. In this one it says activate to leap towards an enemy hero and instantly kill them if their health is below the kill threshold. Otherwise, deal 200 damage to them. So if you play Dota, you'll be familiar with this kind of ability. Enemy health threshold is 20%, and so if they have lower than 20% HP, you can finish them off. They're going to die. And so if you, for example, use it on this bot right here, I'll just deal 200 damage. Boom. Okay, not that impressive. But if we buy a refresher and reset the cooldown this ability, and then we deal some damage here as well. Okay, well, it's less than 200, but play along with me. It'll finish the bot off here. And so even if they had, I don't know, let's say they have 2500 HP. If they have 450 HP left, I'll finish them off. As long as they're lower than 28% HP. Now, when you spec into this, when you upgrade this ability, you can see that in the bottom right, it says finishing off an enemy with killing blow resets its cooldown. And so if I finish off this person, oh my god, I don't have the refresher. Wait, can I sell the refresher? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, that didn't work. All good, all good. Don't worry. Let him cook. Here we go. Here we go. So you'll see I'll finish this bot off. And I have my ultimate again. And that's kind of where the strength comes from. Being able to finish off opponents. You'll deal a lot of damage. I failed. You get the point. You get the point. All right. So Shiv, really interesting character. I suggest you give him a go. Yeah. There you go. But people will want to get rid of that. And finally, we got Paradox, which right now is the most overpowered hero in the game, but also quite complicated if you're new to the game. You got your burst pistol here. And this is kind of like your time character, as you can see by the time glass on the back of yourself. You got pulse grenade, throw a grenade that begins pulsing when it lands. Each pulse applies damage, movement slow, and stacking damage amplification. You can see there are 5 pulses, 5% damage amp per stack. So you throw this one out. And it deals pulsing damage and it'll stack damage amplification. You got a time wall, which is a great mitigation ability. It's a time wall you can shoot through, but the opponent's bullets and abilities kind of like stop. Or projectiles and bullets, they stop when they touch it. So I can shoot through this, but opponents cannot. And so you put this one in front of you. And also if the opponents walk through it, they will take damage and they'll get a debuff. Next up, we have Kinetic Carbine. Start charging your weapon and gain increased movement speed. Once it's fully charged, your next shot will release energy dealing spirit damage and apply a time stop to the enemy hit. Damage dealt is an amplification of your current weapon damage. You can slow time on yourself by pressing right mouse button. I think this is adjustable. Yeah. But you charge this one up, and when it's charged up, you gain movement speed, and you can see I shoot. And I deal some spirit damage, and it's amplified, of course, then by the weapon damage. Now, the time stop kind of like slows the target in place. And so, if you're hunting someone down, it's going to slow them. This ability is real annoying to play against. So if I'm able to apply time stop to a character, you know, it's going to be easier for me to hunt them down, for example. I recommend you check out some of the advanced guides for this hero, or check out a really good Paradox player. I mean, they'll just go insane here with the Kinetic Carbine and play this hero really well. It's too complicated for a quick little gloss over like I'm doing here. But yeah, here we go for Kinetic Carbine. Anyway. Alright, the ultimate. Fire a projectile that swaps your position with the target enemy hero. So you'll see I kind of like swap place with that. And I get lifesteal from the spirit damage and also deal damage to them. Now, you can put down your wall. And as I said, the wall applies a debuff. You can place the wall and ult through it. And they'll take the ultimate damage, but also they'll get the debuff from moving through the wall. So that's quite handy. And there's Paradox for you. Now that should be all the games that are currently available in Deadlock. Just like a brief gloss over all their abilities. But there you go. I hope that's the basic kind of guides for you. Okay, so that is my entire guide on all the basics you need to know on how to play Deadlock. I hope you enjoyed this entire video and it gives you a sense of understanding everything that comes along with this game. It's a really complicated game. There's a lot to it, which is why I made this guide. But also because it's a complicated game, there'll be a really high skill ceiling, and it'll be really advanced, and there is so much you can explore and specialize your heroes in, whether it's item builds, ability builds, hero compositions, and obviously your playstyle in your lane, who are you doing within lane, combining with other heroes. So that is of course content I urge you to seek out, and I hope you enjoy that content. But this was meant as a bit of a primer, the basics 101 on how to play Deadlock, and breaking down everything there is that it currently exists in the game. They'll add more heroes as time goes on, of course. Quite a quick cadence here. But yeah, that should be the basics covered. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Send it to your friends. Distribute the video. That's going to help me a ton. But yeah, this took me quite a bit of time, and I hope you enjoyed this basics video. And maybe you'll see more content from me on this channel where I break down some Deadlock stuff. So enjoy. Thank you for watching the video. Take care. I'm tired. I'm gonna go lay down, and then I'll play some Deadlock. Take care, everybody.